me? Oh.
It's you.
Hello
Okay.
and welcome to Lave Radio. We're out of crowd. We're all kind of looking at each other, wondering who was doing the intro. Are we giving this a show number, or is this just Lavecon 2017?
It is episode 159.
Okay, brilliant.
Now,
Episode 159 of Lave Radio.
Yeah, greetings, everybody. Greetings, commanders. I was just saying to Chris as the music was going through, Chris started to dance. I can't dance to our theme tune. There is a specific reason why I can't dance to our theme tune. I wrote our theme tune. It's really sad if you dance to music that you wrote yourself. That kind of... Oh,
that's contentious.
I think it's just sad if you dance to the Lave Radio theme tune.
Oh, yeah, okay, fine, fair enough.
It's got to be one hell of an awkward disco, that.
What? I was thinking last night how much I really like the music to Dockers, actually.
All right,
really
I will withdraw that statement then.
You talk about dancing to your music. I can't remember who it was, but there was someone that went on Desert Island Discs once, and all 10 of the songs they chose were ones they'd written.
Oh.
I can't remember who that was. I can't remember who it was, but that was legendary.
Okay, so anyway, greetings, commanders. Welcome to episode 159. I am Station Commander Alan Stroud. This is...
I am Christopher Jarvis, also known as Commander Thane, also known as Hold My Kidney.
I'm John Stabler, semi-retired operations officer. I get dragged out whenever somebody can't do something. And obviously as a meeting, looking at the agenda, there's people missing, and that's Fozzer, unfortunately, and I'm sorry if you've all missed him. He does a very good job of kind of making things happen, and he keeps smiling all day. That's something I can't do. But I hope I've managed to do 10% of what he normally does. So.
I believe he has injections for that.
Is there? Oh, right, okay. Well, no one told me this.
Every 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, it's a shame Fozzer couldn't make it this year. He has been missed, I think. He's not dead. He's not dead. Or
I thought, one of the lovely things about John, we've done this show now for a lot of episodes, and one of the lovely things about John in an episode is that occasionally, unintentionally, he can be incredibly humorously nasty. And he had no idea that sentence was going to just end with that pause that's going to sound awful. And I just sort of thought, let's leave that a little bit longer. Let's leave that a little bit. No? Okay. Grant, you all right?
Yeah. Hello, I am Psycho Coward Grant, Chief Bar Steward and Bottle Washer.
And Ben?
I'm alive.
Good.
I think I'm here.
Fantastic.
Yep, seem to be here. And we're also missing Paul Colin as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say, now that you guys care about Colin, poor Colin.
We care about Colin.
Yeah, we've got your back, Col.
I was going to mention Mr. Whispering Late Night Talk Show.
The ASMR podcast.
Yes, I was going to mention Colin and Top Shift, and we're obviously missing Colin. Neither Colin nor Foz could be with us today and this weekend, which is such a shame. I think they would have really enjoyed it. However, Colin has been on Twitch for quite a lot of yesterday, so he has been kind of helping out in terms of what he's doing. And I'm assuming Foz is dealing with his son's birthday. I think it was this weekend. So
yeah, no, he had a good excuse. It's not like he just thought, sod it. He had stuff on. So
yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to dive into some of the different things that have happened this weekend. We're going to reflect a little bit on stuff to do with the Frontier Q&A panel. People who are a little bit more informed than me will probably talk about some of the things on the Frontier Q&A panel, because unfortunately I was doing some other stuff at the time. But we're going to go through that. I have heard about the Suicide Sidewinder. I'm sure that, I don't think anybody could really say... we don't want that implemented. I think that's good. So yes, we're going to go through that, and then we'll go through a few things and highlights in relation to what we've seen and done this year. Who here is at their first Lavecon? Okay, so a few less hands than we had in terms of when we asked this at the live introduction yesterday. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourselves, and hopefully everything is going incredibly well. You still have some things that are going on. There's a couple of challenges still going on in the LAN room, and we've also got the raffle to come, as we know it.
The biggest challenge is staying awake now, isn't it?
No, that's Simon Wynnard's biggest challenge, as he's already said on Twitch. Bless him. Simon, if you're out there, get another joke. We'd really like that. Okay, so we're going to carry on down to the elements that have been going on here and go through some of the things that that have been said and done. So to start with, where would you like to go, Ben? Shall we look at the Q&A stream question photos, or what do you want to look at? Where do you want to go first?
Should we go there or should we go straight to Thargoids?
Let's go straight to Thargoids, fine. Okay.
Well, that was a wee bit in the past at the E3 thingy.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about Thargoids then. So what would you like to talk about Thargoids, Ben?
Well, the biggest thing that got me was I believe it was a Polygon interview where the journalist gave a lovely description of whatever the heck the video was. And he's like, the clip began with the player flying above a rocky, barren world. As they moved closer to the surface, they began maneuvering over what I initially thought might be a crashed Thargoid ship. But the closer the pilot got, the larger structure appeared. It was almost as if the surface of the planet itself had opened up like a gigantic mouth, leaving behind a huge crater lined with jagged truth-like. You're so much better at reading things than I am, Alan.
Unless when I lose my voice. Leaving behind a huge crater lined with jagged tooth-like structures, I watched, mesmerized, as the ship landed and the pilot departed into a tiny silver six-wheeled rover. Soon they were completely underground, driving along inside a tunnel or a cave. Egg-like sacks popped and splattered beneath the rover's wheels. Eventually, an unusual drone-sized vessel called a scavenger appeared, leading the player through a series of doors towards a large central room.
I
Was
feel
that what you
thirsty
meant?
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If we were doing a second take on that, I'd have some notes for you, but...
Okay, fine. But it'll pass, yeah? 7 out of 10, right.
That sounds
Cool.
interesting to me, a bit like the Gamescom video that we saw.
Yeah, that's what I was, it sounded just like that. It's like the to be continued.
Yeah.
Where they continue on down that wee tunnel.
Yeah, you're going into this large central room, and then it just fades to black, and you think, what the heck's going off in there?
Well, you can see the influences, can't you? We're looking at Alien, aren't we? Really, there's a lot of sort of Escher kind of stuff to this. I think, one of the key things to remember here is that we want to be intrigued, and I think I will say that the majority of us in this room are experienced gamers who we recognize that if they kind of give up all the secrets really easily and really openly, you know what, this would be a real disappointment. So what we would like is for the Thargoids to be a real experience to find out anything about them. Yeah. I think that's you want it to be a trial, you want it to be testing, but ultimately you also want it to be rewarding, and you want it to be, there to be information, there to be tangible things happening that you can learn about, find out about, and really have your imaginations fired by. And this is, let's face it, even if there are other aliens out there, this is Frontier's biggest card. They are, maybe when Elite Dangerous came back and when Elite was out there before, maybe you were hoping for a Cobra Mark III, tick. Maybe you were hoping for a Coriolis, tick. Maybe you were hoping for hyperspace, tick. Maybe you were hoping for beam lasers, tick. Maybe you were hoping for all of those different things, generation ships, something else. The Thargoids are a big thing. They are a big component of what this vision was and what this vision is. And we've got something in terms of what's there, but it's got to tease us.
I remember talking to Mike Brooks about Thargoids back in Cheltenham Spa 5 years ago.
It's just that experience that first commander must have felt, other than having to change his clothing, when he experienced that first hyperdiction. That's what we all want from that game. We all want a unique, frightening but exciting kind of experience. And I think that's the challenge they face, because if it becomes or it feels routine, then it loses that kind of threat.
Yeah.
And you see, as you get hyperdicted, you do this on your keyboard, you press those keys, and then that's you on your carrier. It becomes this side effect that is just there.
How many people had a players of Elite, original players of Elite, hands up, please. Thank you very much. Okay. How many of you had a witch space encounter that you did not plan?
Yeah.
Okay, right. Okay. How did you feel?
I think I died.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, right. So, there was an exploit to turn on the witch space encounter. Okay, there were two ways you could do it. There was one by maneuvering. I think, you had to set the hyperdrive and kind of go straight up, didn't you, or something. And there was a key code cheat that you could do to make your hyperdrive malfunction, depending on which version of the game you had and what have you.
Not that we recommend exploits.
Well, like...
They catch up with you.
But with this one, 33 years later, I don't think anyone's going to touch you on the shoulder if you go and boot up your CPC 464 and decide you're going to... Anyway, right. So the point here is that moment is what we're looking back at. That is, if they can touch that moment, if they can give you that experience, and remember, you're all older, you're all wiser, you're all set in your ways, you're all comfortable, you've all got, all these different things, and you're looking back on that experience through an image of nostalgia. You're remembering it as that moment of your youth. You're not remembering the fact that you just wiped your nose and put it underneath your desk while you were busy setting up your hyperspace, or that your mum had called you for dinner and you were 5 minutes late, or something else. You're not remembering that bit.
Is this therapy time?
Yeah. Obviously, that was
Get
what
off
happened to
your
me.
chest.
Yeah.
Am I? Is it
Yeah.
too? Is it too early in the podcast? Am I allowed to start being cynical yet? Or
Too early. Yeah.
It's too early, is it?
No,
Okay,
no.
all right,
Zip.
fine.
So there is a moment there they have to recapture, and I think that's a tough order, because we're a blinking demanding crowd. We are fiercely loyal, but we are a demanding crowd. One thing I will say, that presentation yesterday, and the fact that I've been here this weekend, I've been amongst all the community. I've had a great time, and I've worked my proverbial behind off to have a great time. I haven't been playing for quite a long time. I'm going back in. The reason I'm going back in is because you can kind of have that perspective of some of the updates, you got to a certain stage, these updates were in, these updates weren't. If you can kind of take a bit of time off and then go back in, you can see how much further it's moved, And actually, I'm really looking forward to going back in and getting to grips with it.
You've not been in since Passengers, have you?
2.1. Yeah. So
He's
I
gonna
got
be stuck in a station.
I got in a buggy, drove around once, got in a buggy, drove around, and got in a parking garage and couldn't get out. And that was my last Elite Dangerous experience. So I'm still stuck in a parking garage in a buggy.
The thing about the Thargoids, though, sorry, the sense of scale that they've got, they're so much bigger. Those flower ships are ridiculous. Is that enough of a sort of threat to you? Are they going to bring in ships that are even bigger?
Well, I've heard from just random conversations, people mentioning these things might be scouts. So if this is their equivalent of like the Asp Explorer or the Asp Scout, what the heck's their equivalent of the Anaconda?
You're going to have to fly down their throats and choke them with your T9s.
So open your cargo bay up and swallow, right?
How many? Has anyone else in the crew had any kind of alien encounters?
Well, this is what I wanted to mention. This is what I wanted to mention, and I am going to be cynical. I'm not going to be too cynical because Frontier have been absolutely brilliant this weekend, and the whole panel yesterday was amazing. Frontier's support and vision for the game this weekend was incredible. But what I do want to say is, this is me, like I'm under my rock, because you guys, I like to play on my own. I don't really like other people all that much, and that's not true. But the thing is, you're talking about that moment from Elite where you make first contact with the Thargoids. Because of the way the original Elite was played, you can go back and play the original Elite, and you can still have that first encounter moment. Now, all these moments we're talking about, because this is a multiplayer story, and because those things are out there and they've happened, those moments are gone. If you play Elite Dangerous next year, that moment's gone. You're not.
And,
Hang on. So you're talking about have you had any alien encounters? I will be completely honest. If I was just playing Elite Dangerous, and if I wasn't involved in this community and I didn't come to Lavecon and I didn't watch videos online, y'all are playing a totally different game to me, because the only alien stuff I have ever seen in Elite Dangerous was when I did the buckyball run and I saw the alien crashed ship. That is it. And the reason I want to scale back my cynicism, because I think 2.4 looks absolutely amazing, and my hope is that there will be Thargoid content that can affect each and every player, not there being another thing which is going to play out online and actually bears no relation to the game that I have installed on my PC.
Yeah.
That's
No,
I just want to put that out there, because I
That's
think
fair.
it's a valid point that I'm concerned that these great moments, a bit like when we talk a lot about live role-playing, in live role-playing, because it's like theatre, something incredible happens and then it's gone forever, and it's only there in the memories of the players, and you can talk about it and it was an incredible moment, but you can't invite somebody in and say, hey, come and play this LARP because this great thing happened, because it won't happen again.
I think there's a point, if Ben's not coming in on that, you're not coming in on that, or I can come in on that. Is that
Go in, yeah.
Cool. Dot. Yeah. Okay.
Don't
so,
take the full floor. Fozzer will give you in trouble.
Okay, fine. So I think there's a key thing there, and actually this touches in a little bit on what has been discussed in the writing workshops actually this weekend. When you're writing fiction, if you write science fiction and you write space combat as describing exactly what space combat is, it's as boring as anything. What you have to do is you have to write it well, you have to think about who's the pilot and what's happening to them and how are they experiencing what's happening to them. How do they feel? How much G is going to be on them while they pull that turn? What happens to them when they pull that turn? How do they feel? And so you're writing according to sensation. And actually, what you can't do, there's a bit of chalk and cheese, but there's also a similarity, but there's also a bit of opposition. What you can't do is you can never think, this is the experience I had in Elite, this is how this game worked, this is how this is the experience I'm having in Elite Dangerous. It's got to work in the same way. You can't measure in the same way, but you can measure by the sensation. And that's the point, is if they can capture that moment. And I've had that moment in other games, right? You know, that oh my God, this has happened. You know, I've had that moment in other games. The scariest game for me, I've said this before, I think in some of the podcasts, the scariest game for me, if anyone played Myth, The Fallen Lords, I was playing on headphones at 3 a.m. in the morning, and my squad of troops who I got into my village, and I was supposed to rescue everyone, and in the village it's midnight, and you can hear the ambience of all the, the night birds and what have you, and my soldiers get in the village and they go, hey, there's no one here. And then a man appears on the hill, and he starts walking towards us. Who's that guy? So I send 4 soldiers up to go and have a look, and they get nice and close. Bam! He explodes. The entire terrain explodes. All the soldiers turn into blood and guts. And then there's another man appearing from the other direction and another man appearing from the other direction. I've never seen these before. I didn't look in the manual. I didn't know that there were these creatures in the game. It is 3 in the morning and I'm on headphones and all I can hear is the screams of the dying. And I know that everyone is going to, oh my, and I'm forgetting, because I'm scared, I've got archers. If I'd sent the archers, it would have been fine. No, I sent the blinking swordsman, and off they went. But the point is that was that moment for me at that time. And if I can get that sense out of this in any way, then, take me out of the oven, I'm done.
So what I was going to kind of ask Chris is, okay, fine, any of these guys could have been interdicted or hyperdicted and played with Thargoids and things like that, but would it still be Commander Thane's first time? Would that be just as good for you, even though 10 other people, 100 other people have done it before? Because it's still your first.
Yeah, I think the genie's out of the bottle kind of on games and stuff, because now, I mean, obviously when we were playing the original Elite, we didn't, I always used to talk about...
Turn off the internet.
Yeah, people don't understand just how exciting games magazines used to be, because games magazines were the only time you ever saw screenshots of a game you didn't own. And of course now, I mean, it's within 48 hours of a game being released. You can probably go on YouTube and watch an entire playthrough of the thing. So yeah, in terms of something happening in a game that's a genuine surprise, that is very difficult, and the modern issue of spoilers is very difficult. Now, my concern just comes to it that there is an element of, and I'm not, again, this isn't something I want to lay at Frontier's door. This is the difference between multiplayer storytelling and single-player storytelling.
Yeah.
If it was a single-player game, you would be able to walk that journey of hearing about aliens on the fringes and then them appearing and having a personal encounter with it. I can see there is a possible situation, depending on how they ramp it up. I probably get maybe like an evening a week to play Elite. It's not, I get like 2 or 3 hours a week that I can play Elite, partly because I am, a bit of a tart. I like to play lots of different games, but also partly just because, life is busy. And I can see me going through the next 12 months and being like, war? What war? Are people encountering aliens? I'm just selling mugs. I don't know. I don't know what game you guys are playing. But I mean, that's what I'm really talking about. What I'm really hoping is, and we've said this before, if Frontier fix this, they will be the first games company that I'm aware of to have fixed it, to work out a way that you can tell an interesting story in multiplayer that somehow still manages to affect each and every player of the game. Beyond, because I was just thinking about it, the equivalent for me is, like when you play a game and you find like written notes or you hear like audio logs of someone that is further ahead in the facility, and they're like, there are all these creatures in here, and you're sort of, all you're finding is the kind of the remains and the remnants. And that's kind of what a bit like playing Elite Dangerous is for me. I keep getting these like feeds from various places of people being like, I've seen aliens. I'm like, wow. No. I'm just gonna go back to selling stuff. So that's my hope for 2.4 is that there is, because of the ramping up of content, there is going to be more stuff that me as a player can explore and go and do. I mean, this is where the generation ships are so great, because because the genie's out of the bottle in terms of online stuff. Yes, there is a player who has found those things, but you can go and see it, and there is still gameplay in scanning those ships for yourself and listening to the audio logs.
Yeah.
You can still go and do that. But at the moment, with things like the Thargoid interdictions, that has never happened to me. And I suspect that with the plot moving forward, that initial powering you down and scanning you thing is probably a feature of the gameplay that's going to go away. Is there any point Frontier continuing to do that?
Don't know. I was going to come in on that, but Grant wants to say something.
I was just going to say, if you're still saying that next year, that you've not had any alien experiences, then yeah, that'll be a good thing for you, but not because I think we're all going to be having a lot of experiences. But I was thinking about that high prediction moment, because it is those moments in games when XCOM is when you've gone one square too far at the end of your turn, and then boom, they all see you, and you go, right, do I play on? Shall I just reload now? And in Elite, it could be this simple that high prediction scenario becomes the unknown trigger of fear, because you don't know what you're going to land and see.
Well, I quite liked, actually, if I remember, when you did your YouTube videos on Kerbal. Yeah, right, okay. And there was one of them where it was going so well, and it just then teetered, and then you had to just watch the train wreck of this thing go down into the atmosphere, and completely everybody flash burn, and in terms of what went on.
I'm good at that.
But there's an experience there. Right, isn't there? There's an experience there. And actually, I knew that just watching your video, I knew Grant is going to follow this down all the way to the end, because he actually gets, and I think this is an important thing, and I think most of us do, he actually gets that experiencing my own tragic failure is just as much fun sometimes as experience. Yeah, and good gameplay kind of rewards that to a point.
It's like you're meant to learn from the experiences, and I still struggle to get a Kerbal into orbit. Or I can get them up there, but they're still there.
I was just going to come in on something Chris said. I mean, there is a problem for Frontier. There's something that they did to start with the Thargoids, is they use a cinematic cutscene, and by using a cinematic cutscene, there's a strength in that. The first time it happens, oh my gosh, amazing. Mm-hmm. The second time it happens, maybe if they haven't heard about the first time, oh my gosh, amazing. But eventually, because it's the same, that's a restriction. And actually, that's easy, and I can't think of another way around it. I think that's probably the wisest choice. But it's easy in terms of you've just produced a cinematic cutscene, you've made these particular effect you've affected these particular players. But it's the repetition that creates the banality. The repetition is the danger. And actually, if you can find a way to fix repetition, but that's almost something they've struggled with all the way through, because they want to make the game out of procedural generation, which actually the biggest bugbear of procedural generation is repetition. So your library has to be diverse. If your library is diverse, then you see less of the repetition in terms of what's there.
Well, I mean, I think that's improved a wee bitty with the most recent Thargoid encounter where they're coming in at the barnacles. And yes, it's kind of still a cutscene, but you're able to interact with them a little bit more. And especially, we saw there was a video of somebody who somehow managed to bug it out or did something, and they were able to basically ram this Thargoid ship as it was coming in on the barnacle, and you could see the Thargoid ship fighting to get back to the barnacle, but not shooting the guy who kept trying to stop him. And you've got that level of interactivity that's coming in, and I think that's going to be dialed up and up and up.
Well, there's the diversity of it in terms of your view, because actually, let's face it, the technology that we're making use of to experience this provides another area of uniqueness. Because if you go in just on a your normal monitor screen and it's kind of okay, that's what I saw, and then you go in a Rift, and then you go, this is awesome in a Rift. Okay, I'm going to get in the buggy and get underneath it. And so you go in the next time and you go, wow, look at that. So you're actually creating something slightly different, and the effect is slightly different in terms of, you're not quite getting the, oh my God.
But it's Thargoids, though. So this is where I think, when you see people rushing after there's been one of these events, and everyone rushes to that area to try and trigger it for themselves.
I've still not got mine.
No, it's that fear factor that you can see that people lose, because they're trying to get sucked up in their SRVs. Now, that was your prized possession ship. You wouldn't bloody well risk it. So that fear's gone because it's repetition, and everyone's now, oh well, it's fine, until they fire and are able to take action. We've got that danger of them becoming that kind of comical. Oh look,
you're testing the limits of the simulation, aren't you? And actually, as soon as you start doing that, it's degrading the experience in that regard. That's no criticism of anybody.
Turn them from Thargoids into some kind of space whale. Some sort of phenomenon that happens.
Or if I prod the lion behind let's throw rocks at the monkeys that are in the the enclosure. That kind of, isn't it? There's an element of that kind of, and I'm not criticizing that, but there is a effect in terms of the behaviour of that.
I get the feeling from what Frontier have been saying, we might have already prodded this lion.
Ooh. Well, the one thing you would hope is that there are many, and this is a gameplay issue, and this is something that and I've seen them improve this significantly. The one thing you would hope is that the more methods, and I think I've said this, the more methods you have to interact with something, the less likely you are to warm up your cannons. Most people,
and this is something that again they've said, when we do get these interactions, you might not want to shoot them.
Anybody play Captain Blood?
Yep.
Okay, right. So we know what we're talking about. Now, I don't think we're going to get to me reproduce. I don't think we're going to get to to that level of icon translation system. But wouldn't it be cool if we had something whereby you could get to to effectively some sort of close encounters style.
Sorry.
So
no, you set me off with the Captain
Did I?
Blood comment.
Okay.
I was just thinking of you out there, with the I love Thargoids on the outside of your ship, sailing around trying to find yourself a new friend.
Well, the thing is with Captain Blood is you flew off to all the different places to try and find out something from these aliens, and of course they all had particular different characters, that they all had different languages, and you had your symbolic language board with your words. And you went, and you tried to get this conversation going, and of course this conversation would go round in circles because you weren't giving them the right connection in terms of what's there. Remember, this is on an 8-bit computer, so they didn't have much to play with. And so in the end, you get frustrated. And it was like It was like a text adventure where, you know what happens when you get frustrated in a text adventure. You start typing swear words. and either the person who's written the text adventure has gone, well, they won't do that. And so nothing happens. Or you get, as you did with Perseus and Andromeda, which was start typing swear words. May the gods strike out your tongue! So every time so it obviously database the swear words to make sure that
Or
you
you
didn't do it.
get banged up in a cell in the quest for the golden egg cup if you swore. The first time you swore, you get banged up, but if you dug the floor, you could get out. The second time you dug the floor, it said, looks like there's some rock there now. So you were then just stuck forever. You had to restart the game.
Moral conditioning.
I know.
They used to do it with fairy tales, and now they do it with rocks in floors in computer games.
So, but I know, short of having a discussion on epiphenomenalism, because that's where you guys seem to be going, I was like, this is quite a deep conversation about, the experience of it and it being... Is there a difference between actually experiencing it and seeing other people experiencing it and watching it through YouTube and things like that? Did someone say yes?
I'd say it's always better to experience it yourself. Even if you see the exact same thing on YouTube, I want it to happen to me.
No. I'm just saying, is there a real difference?
I think
Yes, it didn't happen to me.
I think the sound guys are the real champions of the interaction there, because that's what impresses you and kind of shakes you in your little ship, is the sudden noises that come in and you think, oh crap.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think as well, yes, and I'm just gonna add this in terms of the point there, John, in that when you start thinking about what you have to lose, that creates something of the experience. So if you think about a space combat experience when you're interdicted and someone comes after you, or someone starts trying to hunt your bounty or something like that, then actually there's a moment where you reflect on what you could lose. If you're in danger, there's a moment where you reflect on what you could lose. How much is the ship costing? If it's going south, what could I lose? The Thargoid powerlessness moment is a moment where you, unless you know they're not going to fire back, which of course is the limit of the simulation. But I think experiencing it, there is a moment where you reflect on what you could lose.
No, I know that. Sorry, I was making a really geeky philosophical point.
Okay.
Which, don't worry about it. Move on.
Sure.
Do you think the difference between it happening to you and you watching it on a YouTube video, is it the difference between, like in a game, because obviously, like you were talking about that guy up on that hill, so your experiences of that game, which are unique to you, that is emergent gameplay because you've done something different that somebody else has done. So Ben, are you talking about, like, is it that feeling of, if I get interdicted by a Thargoid, I have the opportunity to explore that moment and I might do something different for someone else than someone else might have done? Or is it just that you want that in-game to be part of your personal journey? Even if it's exactly the same moment that somebody else has had, is it still as valid because it's happened to you? Or is it because you want that encounter for yourself because you might do something different, or you want to explore that location or whatever?
Are you going to finish this sentence?
When I get to a point.
Yeah, there's definitely, I just want, even if it's exactly the same thing, I want it to happen to me. And, this is Commander Edelweiss's experiences.
The grass is always greener. It's going after the "I've been touched by a Thargoid."
Yeah, I was going to go there. I was just thinking, actually,
no tentacles.
We're back to Independence Day and the guy who says, "I was kidnapped, I was abducted."
No, I'm just saying. So if I've got like a game like, say, let's pick one out of the air, like a Zelda game. Zelda's not a good example because the bosses... No, some of the bosses are bad. So if I sometimes get to the end of a game and I can't defeat the end of game boss, I am notoriously impatient with bosses in games. If I've got to the very end of the game and all I have to do is kill the boss to watch the story at the end of the game, quite often I'll just quit and just watch the end of the game on YouTube. Because it's no different.
No.
There is nothing that is going to happen post killing the boss.
That doesn't count.
But...
Yeah.
Okay. But the point is, if it's an earlier point in the game, there is still your own path through the game, and I don't want to watch how other people have done that because I'm still making choices. But if it's just about chipping down the hit points of a giant enemy and then watching a pre-rendered cutscene, I can do that on YouTube as well as I can on my own computer.
Yeah, there's a competitive element there, but yeah, no, I can see what you're saying.
Unless there's an achievement in it, for me, when you have to grind it.
Take Street Fighter 2. Okay, you know, there was a big thing when I was of that age that you had to complete it on this particular level, and you had to, you know, with this particular character, and of course, you know, our internet was much more limited. You know, there were people at my school who could complete it, and so I had to complete it because, you know, so there's a competitive challenge there, but we're not really talking about a game that's like that. No. Differently, I think what we're touching on here is the illusion of choice.
Yeah.
Because actually, in that Thargoid cutscene, despite the fact that we know it's a cutscene, really, there is still the illusion of choice. There is the illusion that you might be able to do something different. It might happen in a slightly different way, and therefore, it could still be something else. Yeah. And I think actually that there's still enough presentation because you're there in a completely different ship. It could be in a completely different location. There is still the illusion of choice within the way in which that's produced. So you know, I don't think we can dismiss that in terms of.
I just think that something that would be amazing if Frontier go off and do this is, you know, we've had the high predictions for a while now, and if Frontier introduced just a little event where you get high predicted, but instead of it coming around to scan you, it just shoots you instead.
Yeah, variation as opposed to difference, because actually you can play off familiarity then, because what you do is you reverse that banality that we were talking about, because, you know, if you start throwing rocks at the monkeys, you know the monkeys are behind bars, and then you see the park ranger come by and go, oh, okay, hello, park ranger. Oh, well, the monkeys are still behind bars. I'll keep throwing rocks. He just opens the door.
Even if it, you know, not kill you, but you get attacked and your heat starts going up, and it's like, you know, you start getting a barbecue on your hull or something.
Yeah. So what you do is you're actually playing with the gamer's expectation, because the gamer's expectation has become, you know, sort of locked that this will only occur this way, and then it doesn't occur.
I just think that'd be so funny if they do that.
So is now a good moment to say that was the first bullet point on the show notes?
Well, you know, I think we'll, you know, some of the stuff that we've got on the show notes we're probably not going to get to today.
The thing is, just listening to you guys, right? You're talking about all these experiences and stuff, and Ben's at the end going, I think, it's completely different if you experience it yourself than you know finding out by reading about it or seeing other people's. And I'm like going, oh, this is so annoying. He's arguing for Cartesian duality without realizing it. And I'm thinking, can we just move on? I'm overthinking this.
Okay, all right. So let's do that. Right.
I've lost my show notes.
Okay.
It's powered off. I don't know the password. That's because the stuff that I was actually really excited about. Sorry, the stuff that I was really excited about in the Frontier panel. Actually, I was really excited about the announcement, which they sort of pitched for Explorers, and I get why it's for Explorers, but I actually think it's a really cool feature. Frontier confirmed that they were bringing in limpets, which you will be able to deploy to repair your hull, which is very cool. And one of the things they mentioned about it, which I actually did, and this was the first thing that occurred to me when they said it, was that it's not just about Explorers. If you're like in a combat zone and you have to bug out to let your shields regenerate, why don't you just like buff your hull a little bit while you're rebuilding your shields as well? That's really cool. That's awesome. That was my takeaway feature.
Not only that, but you've got your healing beams for engineers. Could your healing beam ship also be firing hull limpets at you mid-combat?
My healing beam ship had all its modules stripped. That's a joke. I don't have a healing ship, but no. But yeah, there is obviously that as well. And the other thing they pointed out, and obviously this isn't for all of us, this is for fuel rats, but they're suggesting that maybe fuel rats could double up and be hull rats as well. That's cool.
Hull rats, yeah, that works.
Hull rats. Yeah.
That sounds like an infection.
It does.
We're still waiting for that kind of neutralization of the pirates versus the unarmed traders. The pirate, well, they're now not quite so super ships, but I think I've got it.
Yeah, they were talking about changes to the bounty system, which should make the piracy thing and then player killing different. Can I be completely honest and say I didn't totally understand the ramifications of it?
It's, well, that was in the background. It was very difficult to hear it, but I'll check into it. But the I reckon the way to interact that is to allow traders to fit a new weapon that does the opposite of an interdictor. So when you're interdicted and you're pulled out of Super Cruise, you fire that on the pirate and fire them straight back in.
a Wile
That's gonna work,
Coyote
innit?
style catapult.
Yeah.
Although, just to get on my soapbox about this, but I remember back in the days of the DDF on the forums, they were saying, come up with, remember the weapons DDF, and they said, let's talk about weapons. And I said, oh, wouldn't it be great if you had a laser that could heal shields and something like that? And the amount of flack I had for coming up with that idea. This isn't World of Warcraft in space, man. Healing shields, how ridiculous.
Well,
But it's good that they took it seriously.
yeah, absolutely.
It's
Someone
taken a
was
bit-
listening.
Yeah, it took a few updates.
So, what also if we're going back to DDF
Yeah.
and things of old days, we do have to think there was a very active discussion at Lavecon 1 in relation to how piracy, how bounties, and how transgressors were going to be dealt with. And the idea was that they were going to be pushed to the fringe systems because essentially they would accrue a reputation that would gradually push them out of instances towards the fringe.
Yeah, and that's sort of a step towards this, because what they're issuing is that when people are doing player killing and piracy, they will gain an additional Pilots Federation bounty, which is universal across all factions and all space, but not anarchy.
Yeah.
So that is a step towards that. But I don't, given that players already get bounties for killing other players and for doing piracy, I don't understand fully how adding an additional bounty is actually going to change that.
I don't think people, well, at least when I understood that comment that transgressors were going to be pushed to the fringe, I was actually thinking of the narrative of that, not the narrative of, now we've got safe space, now I'm a safe trader, now I've got safe space, these guys who keep killing everybody have been pushed to the fringe. Not their narrative. The narrative of the pirate who's been pushed to the fringe, who then becomes the scourge of a particular system. And actually, there's an opportunity there to cater for that type of player. Yeah. It's not, I'm not criticizing that type of player. And, people have kind of, we've said this before, sometimes when you plan a system, when you plan a game, when you plan a set of rules, you write the holes into the rules so that people go in the directions, you write exploits, you consider exploits, and you write them into what you're doing, so they go in the directions that you follow. So my thought there was actually you can make that particularly attractive, because you can say, okay, you've killed loads of people in the core system, so the core systems people hate you. That's your story. So you were pushed out to the fringe. Now you can only trade in these two systems, but they call you Black Pirate Rob. And you are scourge of, whatever, the anthrax system, scourge of the anthrax. Anyway, but you can see the point.
Yeah, but that's the problem, though, isn't it, with the difference between a narrative around a character and a bounty-based gameplay? Because the way the bounty-based gameplay works is you are a criminal for as long as you have a bounty against you, and then when you don't have a bounty against you anymore, you are no longer a criminal.
Yeah.
But actually, there's an element of player choice, of saying that actually, if you are. They kind of didn't want to break it by saying, well, if you make an illegal choice, you are permanently marked by that illegal choice. But actually, it means that you don't effectively have proper criminal players, because they're just players who've done something criminal and just like a week later will be back.
Yes, the resetting.
You always want to make the choice as a player that if you are going to go down the route of either attacking other players, and I'm not just talking about that, I'm talking about making money through illegal means. If you are a smuggler, or if you are someone that hangs around on the edges of battles, waits for ships to blow up, and then picks up the stray cargo, and all those sorts of things, that is an element of criminal activity that should push you into a kind of criminal culture and story within the game. That's how that should work.
Yeah, and
if it's just a case of saying, well, now my bounty's cleared and I'm a good, honest, upright citizen, that doesn't work in a gameplay storytelling setting.
True. I mean, you can modify it to a point with some cash-based scaling. So, essentially, if some of that is about how much you pay off, and so you have a sinkhole in terms of, an economic sinkhole. Because ultimately, let's face it, this game is ultimately, its economy is flawed, and that's not a criticism. The economy ultimately is about you earning money to buy more stuff. You earning money to buy more stuff. Eventually, you will have earned enough money to buy all the stuff. So the economy is unless you escalate, escalate, escalate. It is fundamentally not cyclical economy. So to create a cyclical economy, you have to have sinkholes in terms of what's there. Sometimes the legality, the crimes is a sinkhole, and we know that that's already implemented to a point. You could have kind of almost the inverse of the engineers. What about if you've got an engineer, not an engineer, but actually an intelligence officer who's out there? Psst, I see you got a record. You pay me 6 million credits and I'll wipe everything.
We kind of have that with the interstellar factors.
Okay, but it completely, in terms of absolutely, if you were doing all of it in the same way. Is that already in there?
You can basically clear all your bounties with this guy, and
You've got to pay them.
Oh, you got to pay them, but you'd have to pay Alan's friend as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I think he was offering a deal on a sort of like 6 million for your 200 billion bounty, as opposed to if you just pay me your what's your bounty? 6,000. Yeah, if you just pay me 6,000, I'll clear that for you.
But there's also a narrative exploit on the end.
Yeah.
If you went to some guy to pay off or to give you a new identity, that would be a better way to do it. You do it as a new identity. Mm-hmm. You go to some guy to give you a new identity. He's got leverage on you. If you put that in the game, so that he then came back and went, "You're going to do me this favor, right? Well, otherwise, all that's coming back." We got a bit of gameplay there, right? And suddenly you've got your worst transgressors in the game are doing kind of like what Chris was doing, because Chris is sort of saying, oh, well, everyone else is playing a game with Thargoids in it. I'm just carrying on and I've not seen any of them. Well, these particular transgressors, they're off playing a different game. They're playing a game where they're being blackmailed by some NPCs into doing particular missions and therefore pulled into a totally different, world. And actually, to be honest, it's still emergent gameplay.
You're right, that there isn't any blackmail missions.
Well, can I ask a question, actually? Because this is something that's bothered me. I haven't played it very recently. But is anybody here making money, and I don't just mean like a couple of hours, but, like, for instance, I'd get into the habit of doing, like, combat zones night after night because it's a good way of making money. Is anybody here making money purely by what the game considers illegal means, like smuggling, scooping up cargo? Yeah.
Time to confess.
I know you can make money, but what I mean is it actually a choice? No, it's really hard. Exactly. Really so, for instance, if you're hanging around a star at a nav beacon, right, and you shoot somebody up, right, I just look at the cargo and it looks good. But there's no point in me picking it up, because as soon as I do, I'm going to get scanned.
It's very true.
And I think it's one of the things that I haven't heard anybody discuss it, in that I don't think there is a viable choice to play the game as a character. Go on, someone's going to disagree.
There are ways of identifying cargo ships which carry low temperature diamonds in.
But that's a secret. But that's a secret, okay. Well, I mean, I don't know, I guess it's just going back to DDF and all that.
One second, John. Can we just ask that question for Twitch?
Oh. There's always someone on Twitch who knows something.
Yeah, we need to wake Simon Wynnard up.
Yeah, Commander Wotherspoon's got it.
What about how to do the illegal, live off illegal means? Is that what you're asking?
Oh, just talk about the diamond hack. That sounds cool.
If you find an agricultural system that's in boom, and you scan ships in supercruise, if they're carrying mining equipment, then those ships will have low-temperature diamonds. If you interdict them, then you let them wake out, follow them with a wake scanner. They'll eventually jump to an anarchy system. Once you're in the anarchy system...
You're despicable.
I like that.
You can take down their power plant, and you can take all the low-temperature diamonds. My biggest haul is about 150 tons. From one ship, from a T9.
And how much do low temperature diamonds sell for per ton?
I think my record is a haul of about 7.5 million credits.
So,
Yeah.
so
So
I've
it
learned
is
something really
possible.
interesting, which is great. But I just wanted to know,
Yeah.
because back in the early days, before the game was released and we were talking about all the great ways we could play this game, we were thinking, can I actually be a pirate, play a pirate full time? And I think the answer is no at the moment.
Yeah, I kind of, yeah, because I'm kind of keen to sort of move this on. I want to cover a different point. So they've talked about, we're talking about bounties and we're talking about living as legal. So they have, they're coming up with a workaround for the suicide sidewinder, which I know we have had people asking on the Facebook, what is a suicide sidewinder? So this is the exploit people know about, where you have a bounty against you. Rather than losing your expensive ship, you pick up a cheap sidewinder, and then you say, I'm here, shoot me, kill me. That clears your bounty, and then you can get back into your kind of nice ship. What I was going to say is, though, when we were talking about this business of making a choice as a player, I think one of the issues about the legality is, once your bounty is cleared, all you have to do is die once, and your bounty is cleared. Now, the reason, if you look at, obviously, if you're looking at things historically, the reason you apply a bounty to a person is because you want that person dealing with, wanted, dead or alive kind of thing. The thing with the bounties in Elite Dangerous is it doesn't deal with the person, it just inconveniences them. Now, what would happen, I don't know what you guys think of this, what would happen is if your bounty was cumulative and dying didn't clear your bounty, you were always a criminal with a bounty set at you at a certain level. Any player who kills you claims that money. The more of a criminal you become, the more of a valuable target you become. You become an income source for other players, and you have to fly in such a way that they can't find you. And then that's where you're talking about pirates then inhabiting dangerous systems, where they can form a pact with other pirates, because maybe if you're a criminal, you can't claim bounties or something. I don't know. I'm spitballing here. But this is my point I'm saying, is that it becomes a choice to be a criminal, not clearing your bounty because you've been blown up in any kind of ship, but clearing your bounty, say, like each individual bounty lasts for, say, a month. So the more criminal stuff you do, you're a massive target, or you have to lie low for a month and wait for people to forget about it.
The only worry there is you have to get rid of the pirate circle jerk, which is, hey, look, we've all got bounties, let's all claim on each other.
Yeah, no, that's valid.
So you could argue about saying just get rid of bounties get rid of clearing them by death and have them just disappear over time.
Or you have to take jobs
Or
in
you-
the authorities in
or
order
you-
to work your bounty
Or
off.
you go to your sleazy
That's
guy
like
who
one.
wipes you out.
Yeah, we want
the
the
sleazy guy who
All
wipes
choices.
you out.
But yeah, I'm just sorry.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Let's
Pete,
move on.
was there a question, Pete?
There was shaking head at the back. I want to know what the shaking head was about. Obviously, didn't agree with my point.
So I understand what you was on about the pirate circle jerk,
Yeah.
but
I'm
is
glad.
there a way to claim certain bounties but not others? So yes, your bounty does accumulate, but somebody who's already killed you doesn't get the same bounty again.
Tricky.
Or if you've died, your bounty doesn't then go to the next person. So one pirate with 2 million credits can't go around and say, hey, I've got 2 million credits.
That's the circle jerk.
It's a complicated.
That's the-
That is a complicated.
Yeah.
It's a difficult one to do because you've got a genuine bounty hunter. Then if you've got someone who's a repeat offender, they may well be that they're bounty hunting in the system where that guy always seems to try it on. It's one of those things.
Once you're back to trying to regulate behaviour, stuff starts to, once you're trying to use hard rules to regulate behaviour, stuff starts to fall apart because you end up with contexts that work and contexts that don't work. And actually, emergent behaviour is about, often the most successful things in game design, emergent behaviour is about when you encourage that behaviour and it regulates itself. Sorry if that I'm hoping that makes sense. I'm sorry if I'm being a bit too out the top of the box. But actually, this is society modelling. This is exactly how how postgraduate sociologists think. Is that when you're trying to sort of create cultural rules or encourage cultural rules, you encourage behaviour by positive reinforcement, not by negative reinforcement, and it's always more successful.
Sorry, I do just want to move things on because we are
Sorry,
very
I was getting into MIT
Yeah,
studies
it's
and pain
good.
on rats.
It's good. Another exciting thing for the Frontier panel for me, this is very exciting. Instead of now picking up cryopods and just taking them to a commodities market to sell, you will have a search and rescue contact who you can take abandoned pilots in pods and be a search and rescue pilot. That's
cool.
That's really cool.
That's cool.
I have literally nothing cynical to say about that.
Is that a
That's
pod
amazing
rat?
gameplay. What's that?
A pod rat.
Pod rats, yeah, totally. That is. That's almost.
Sorry, I couldn't come round today. I had a case of the pod rats.
It's such a good feature suggestion. I don't have anything to say about it. I'm just really looking forward to playing it.
I think we've got another question up there, yeah?
It's Conor Gwilliam or Dramdar. So I think for the pod thing, I think there should be specific missions called pod races.
Ooh.
I thought you were going to say I think there should be a cream for, but yeah, no, absolutely.
But yeah.
As soon as you said pod race, my brain just went, Misa back.
No.
No, which is not a good thing.
But saying that, it'd be difficult because you would imagine that a pod race would be for a particular rescue mission that you're going on. So you couldn't have two pilots bringing back the same person and racing it back. So unless it was kind of like a
Capture the flag.
with
with cargo limpets.
What are you thinking?
Sort of pods, you're out there, you get your pal with a T9 and you're out there grabbing pods, loading up the T9 quickly, then right, go, let's go. I mean, yeah, I think there is some gameplay in that, definitely. But I'm not quite sure how you could have that unique rescue mission and who gets there first and who gets there fastest. Maybe gets the bigger reward.
I'm still with the Star Wars mashup here. Obviously we're missing Foz, aren't we? He needs to get writing more elite Star Wars mashup fiction.
No, it
You're
doesn't.
going to get crunched.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if you're doing this rescuing, and I've seen Grant trying to scoop things. This is not going to be good for them.
Yeah, as long as when you are acting as a rescuer, you are not then subject to the laws of murder, I should be okay.
And for that matter, I've seen the limpets trying to scoop things as well, and they're just about as suicidal.
Awesome. I'm going to make a contentious suggestion here. We've got lots of notes here about interesting, elite, dangerous things. I'm going to suggest we bump some of those to an actual podcast.
Sounds
we
good.
Do some Lavecon talk.
My thought too is that how many people here saw the Lave Revolution film earlier? How many here didn't see the Lave Revolution film earlier? Okay, right, okay. Because our thought was we might screen it again during this, as long as people who saw it once don't go, oh, no, I don't want to see it again.
But it gives them an opportunity to go to the bar and get a drink. They can go to the bar and get a drink.
Yeah, but, that's kind of a bit, we're on a roll, we're having it. Okay, all right, fine.
I'm just trying to be practical.
Okay, good. So we were thinking about doing that. We've also got, I believe, Grant, you have a short film as well.
Yep, that was from, if he's about Phil, Mindwipe had given us an Uncle Art trailer.
Great, which we want to obviously we want to screen for you, so you've got an idea of what's going on with what they're doing. I believe it's for the documentary, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep. And Chris has got another announcement.
I have an announcement. I do want to do my announcement because I'm sorry, I'm going to have to shoot off at 4:30. So
go.
But what are you doing with the Lave Revolution film? Are you going to show it? Because
I think we will. On balance, as long as people are happy and I don't receive any scowls, and if you're desperately unhappy with me about it, obviously you can beat me up outside later. That's fine. I think we will show it if that's okay.
Okay. So in terms of Lave Revolution, obviously, so for those of you who don't know, Elite Lave Revolution is Alan's book, which was one of the official Elite Dangerous fiction projects. As some of you may or may not know, the audio drama version of that, because of the rights and stuff of the book moving around, the audio drama version got complicated. We are going to finish it. We are going to finish it. We are hoping to finish it this year. And what I have just enabled before we went live, if you go to www.radiotheatreworkshop.com and click on the store, you can pre-order Lave Revolution, the audio book. It's not audio, full-cast audio drama. So this is, if you've heard Escape Velocity, its production values like that, but it's the Lave Revolution story, probably some familiar-sounding actors. What I want to say when I'm sort of introducing it is that it is not currently finished. This is a pre-order process. We thought rather than, because we do need to raise a certain amount of funds for finishing it, rather than doing another crowdfund, we didn't want to do another crowdfund because the Lave Revolution book has already been crowdfunded once, and it's silly to go back.
And bear in mind as well, all the backers who were on that crowdfund who backed to get the audiobook will receive the audiobook. It was just a case of, and I have never said they won't, it was just a case of we needed to sort through the issues first.
Yes. So what we're doing is, with these pre-orders, you don't actually pay now. It's a pre-order system like any other pre-order system with Amazon, where you won't be charged for it until the thing is actually being shipped. What it will enable us to do is, if you guys who are keen to get it want to go and pre-order it now, and we'll be pimping it over the next few weeks and stuff. If we get an idea of just how many people want it and how popular it's going to be, it's in a funny sort of way, it's going to give us an indication of how much money to kind of spend on finishing it, because there's various different ways we can finish it at this point. And depending on the kind of level of pre-orders, it's a bit like a sort of unofficial Kickstarter. We're using the pre-order environment to sort of gauge funding.
So if we only
Does that make sense?
So if we only get 6, one of the characters will go, "War, I'm like this," which is completely obviously on, and we'll have Cornish cast for the nothing against anyone who's Cornish.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know, there will be all Cornish cast.
Yeah.
So
we are.
now you're all going to want a Cornish version, aren't you? I'll have to play all the roles.
It might still happen.
We just lost 2 listeners.
So we are.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So we've kind of set a release date for that of December this year. Really, the aim is just to make sure it'll all be over by Christmas. And obviously that.
It's about 5 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an audio drama, but it is long. It is. It's a long, complex book. It's about, like I say, I think 4.5 hours was the previous sort of draft version, which wasn't finished. So. It's an epic. An epic.
And it's not, for those of you who aren't aware of the distinction, I'm sure most of you are. An audiobook is, a dramatized audiobook would be a narration by the author or by somebody else with some sound. This is not that. This is people playing the parts. This is Chris completely adapting, rewriting my novel, cutting down a few characters because I have a tendency to have cast of hundreds, but also making sure that that's tight and works for the medium. So he's done an incredible job on it, and I've been privileged enough to hear previews of it, and it's fantastic.
Although a lot of it's going to have to change, but
okay.
But it will be just as good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, shall we cut to the videos, Grant? Is that a good idea? So,
yep.
Should we get those up? Let's get those.
Let's do that right now.
So we'll start with. Which one should we do first?
I think it's going to be Lave Revolution, isn't it?
Yeah, sounds good. Okay.
I'm going to do it with the power of my mind.
Leave historical archive online. The third millennium, mankind heads to the stars. Colonial expansion brought adventure, fortune, and war. You have selected Lave Revolution. Only 3 minutes until the encryption window closes.
Has he ever been late before?
Kay is never late.
Well, we can't stay over time. If he doesn't make it back,
I know the regs.
sure he's fine.
It's always the same time every week. He said that he was going to do something huge, and that it would be what we finally needed to bring Walden down. We don't hear from him. Something's up.
Ask him. What makes us good? Society teaches people in their rules, rules are the same. And its behavior is policy with is the portrayal of a way of thinking. To tell us. Then there's create weapons. Eventually, we have to so we get the progress.
floor to complete. The bar's done, but the cells are still secure. No problems. It goes back on before I leave. Otherwise, we'll be later.
Could be anywhere.
I know. Mom! Did I can see you on this? What are you doing? The factor wants to take you away. Mom, no. Please, I'm sorry. It's alright. I talked to him. Told him you didn't go there. But they'll be watching you now. One breath wrong, and you'll vanish. You don't let that happen. It's just me and you now. Stay away from the Berlin district and places out for us. You've got to accept your place. Keep your head down. Do what's right. Is that all you do?
How many friends have you lost?
A few.
Then why help them?
Well, what are the option? The Phoenix Rebellion? You go around claiming to be liberators, but you are killing people.
Some people don't accept change. What choice do you have?
You sound like Ole. Do you really think you're any better than that?
By the sounds of what's going on the surface, gonna get a chance to find out. Liz, we've been sitting here too long. You need to go.
There's still 2 minutes.
Liz, he's gone.
You don't know that. We need to warn the others.
Station, this is 7. I've got something on the scope. Looks like a trader who's lost power. Please advise. 7 to station. Repeat, please. I didn't catch your last station. I'm going to run a scan and head in. Ship ident 30FC16. This is Lave Sec Patrol. Are you in need of assistance? I repeat, ship ident 30FC16. Are you in need of assistance?
We're fine, Lave Sec Patrol. Thanks for the inquiry.
We need to get out of here.
Hey! What's happened? I'm still in here. Control, what's going on?
Looks like your time came up.
This shouldn't happen.
Rebellion has started. Someone braver than you is making something happen.
I'm no coward.
Prove it. Let me go. You have no excuse now. There's no videos, comms. It's just me and you.
You're a murderer. All of you down here are murderers.
Is that what they told you? You people holding the keys and the security codes are blameless. If you walk away and leave me here, you're leaving me to die. Wouldn't that make you just as bad?
around here?
The door wouldn't open.
No, I mean with him. Why'd you let him talk? You're compromised.
What?
There's no way of knowing what he could have told you. I'm sorry.
I have a choice. What happens now?
You get what I came in for. Turn to the loaves. Come on. 70 station, looks like we've got.
Guess we're going to get blown away if we sit here.
Kate's alive.
Yes, he is. Well done, him. But he'll be the only one who is if we get caught on this crossfire.
Hooray. Okay, right. That only took 4 years. So, before we move on, can we get the volume down of the music a little bit? Is that okay? Brilliant. Okay. So, before we move on to some of the other bits and pieces, can I just say the reason this got here, the reason it got finished, is because of Chris Walton. Okay? So, for those of you that don't know what happened, I essentially, as part of my Kickstarter, I promised a stretch goal in relation to doing a short film. That short film is a tie-in to the book. It fits as part of the book. It doesn't tell the whole story of the book. It's just a story of a couple of people who were, on the planet of Lave and were involved in what was going on whilst some of the stories of the book happened. Most of the filming was completed actually in 2014, and it's taken that long to do the post-production. And Chris absolutely stepped up to doing that. So I'd made a decision very early on this wasn't going to be my film, this was going to be an opportunity for one or two of my students to be able to do something tied in with this mythos and tied in that would give them access to, a larger franchise than they might necessarily be working with. Marcus did the direction. Marcus did all the production shooting and then handed over the material to me. I think when he graduated, or it was after he graduated, it was sort of 2015. And then at that point, I was able to get it to Chris a couple of months later, and he has just been fantastic. Actually, no, I think it was 2016 I gave it to you, didn't I? Yeah. So it had taken a year, in 2015 to 2016, it's actually taken a year to basically to be able to get it into a state that we could start to work on it. And Chris has put it together. So absolutely all plaudits and kudos are deserved by him. not by me. If that encourages you and you want to go and buy the book now, then fantastic, then please do. But certainly all praise should be to Chris and to the folks that did the recording and the other bits and pieces to help him. I know that some of you contributed to the in-game footage. Thank you so much. I know Peter did. Thank you very much, and to the others that do. And also, Kareem played Hans Walden, so we had a nice bullet shot in the head, which is great. So our plan, yes, I'll answer that. Our plan for you to be able to get this so that you can access it and watch it, it will get posted up on the Lave Radio site once we have taken down Lavecon and had a bit of sleep. Chris is going to sort out getting it online, and then we're going to we'll connect the link across to the Lave Radio page, so you'll be able to go straight to the Lave Radio page, and it'll be one of the posts on the panel, and you can just go and find it from what's there and everything else. But yeah, again, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you to everybody that contributed to help. Thank you. And right, do we have the Uncle Art video?
Yep, it should be go.
Yep.
Actually,
Brilliant.
give me 1 second.
So for those of you that don't know about Uncle Art is Dave Lowe. Dave Lowe wrote the original theme tune music for Frontier back in 1993. He did an orchestral redo version, which we premiered exclusively at Lavecon last year. It's amazing. I was at Abbey Road and I listened to it being recorded, and Dave and Phil did too, and it was awesome. This, I think, is the trailer to the documentary of making it, if I remember rightly. So they filmed the whole process.
You can't imagine it like a film, like you write for film. Because obviously music on films, they'd use real music. They didn't have the problem of putting it into a computer chip. They could use a recording studio and actual musicians to make that music as exciting or sad or whatever they wanted. And when I wrote the pieces, that's how I imagined them sounding and being done. Premise was to produce music the way I wanted to be able to do it in the day, if I was able, and that's what we're doing.
So yeah, so that is the documentary of making the Frontier theme and its recording at Abbey Road. You know what? It's been a year since we premiered that here. I cried then, and I'm crying now.
The sound that came.
Yeah, I'm
phenomenal.
crying now. It's just awesome, and I write a lot of music. I wrote obviously the stuff for Lave Revolution and other stuff. I wrote a lot of of synth music at times. There is nothing like when you get a real orchestra.
No.
And it's something that hits you in the feels, and you get a real orchestra. There is nothing like it. It's lovely. It's made my night. It's great.
Well, maybe we can play the tune while we do a changeover on the stage for the rifle. Get it out there loud. It'll sound as
Yeah,
fantastic
absolutely.
then.
If you would like to hear it, then obviously we can arrange that. Last year we had to premiere it and turn the Twitch stream off, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Because it was an exclusive, and of course the guys on Twitch, for those of you that weren't here, the guys on Twitch last year, there were a couple of complaints But then what they got all of us sitting in silence like that. And I said, actually, we need to kind of just show our appreciation now. So we brought the volume back up on Twitch, and it was all of us going, which was great.
I'm going to take this opportunity to say goodbye. I have to go. My 3-year-old is dancing on stage this evening, so I have to leave. Just personally, I want to say thank you to each and every person that I've spoken to this weekend. I've had a fabulous time talking to you all, talking Elite, talking audio drama, talking escape velocity, talking about whatever we've been talking about. Because I won't get here to do my personal thanks to Alan and particularly Karen and all of Karen's team of helpers for all their wonderful work. I'm sure there will be proper big thank yous at the end. I just wanted to say that myself before I went. So thank you all very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed being here with you, and I will see you all again soon and online.
Take care, Chris. Okay. So I think we're going to wind down a little bit now, but I think that what we're going to do is just quickly go around to the team. Favourite moment this weekend, John?
The Phoenix Point stuff, I was really looking forward to that. So that gave me a reason to get out of bed this morning because I was absolutely knackered. So yeah, I did like that, and yeah, I think that's been my highlight. As usual, when you volunteer at the event, you don't get to see everything. So one year, I'd like to say, the highlight was I went and did the radio workshop with Chris, or maybe some writing a workshop with you, but not this year, unfortunately. I know, but yeah, that was my highlight, and filling in for Foz has been fun.
Yeah.
So.
Got that swanky new robot arm.
Yeah, got it. Oh, well, the RPG, it's not possible to be killed, okay, when you have an audience, it would seem. Because I was trying my hardest.
You did try, didn't you?
Not just to kill myself, but to kill everybody, and it just wasn't going to happen. So well done to the GM for putting up with my efforts.
Ben?
I think, yeah, two things. Again, the RPG, and I actually had a really nice chat with a long-time member of the community, but a short-time player, I guess I'd say. A guy I was talking to this morning called Steve. So, hi, Steve, if you're here, wherever you are. Or he might not be. I know he was 1,000,001 questions.
Yeah.
And it was so nice just talking to the community again.
Grant?
Cramming a 6-foot guy into a Mr. Blobby costume. It was sharply undone. All that enjoyment was ruined as Hober got out of his and into a nappy. That was just that was the low light for me. But no, Frontier and the way that they interact with us is always a highlight. And of course, Trevor and Simon singing corner for a Drabo song. Yes.
I think for me, and you guys know, and we've kind of, we've shuffled around this year a little bit. I have to say kudos to Ben and to Chris and to Colin and to Grant in that they've stepped up and taken up most of the show for the last few months. Certainly John's in semi-retirement, which he completely acknowledges. Foz doesn't have as much time. His life has changed. And to be fair, I've struggled. My enthusiasm struggled. And I think the thing I didn't anticipate, which is really nice, is that I feel more enthusiastic. I actually, and that's sounds a little bit sort of cynical, but a lot's happened in 4-5 years. A lot's happened, and it is nice to have essentially come here, run this weekend, and don't get me wrong, when I say run, I mean Karen ran this weekend. To be here and do all this and kind of almost feel like you're at the petrol station and you've just topped up your enthusiasm and your keen filter. I genuinely feel excited again, which is really, really nice. And it has been a tough time. And having an opportunity to essentially to be with you guys and feel that, for me, the photo. Right? And that sounds a bit silly, really, because you're like, oh, but you did this activity, you did that. As soon as I see everyone out there on those steps, oh, yeah, this is how much we care. Great, So, yeah, so that was fantastic. And, I did what I always do with Artemis in that we set up Artemis, and then just occasionally I prowl up to the doors and I just put my ear against the door and listen to people having fun. And that's cool. So, yeah. Well done to all the team who've run Artemis for me this weekend. That's been fantastic. So, Steve, thank you very much. Thank you, and everybody else. Okay.
I just also very related to what you were talking about there. I've bumped into a few people. Some people are still playing the game very often. I've also bumped into some people who've said they're in a similar position to like myself, and they said, "Well, I haven't played it for a while because of life." But if there's one purpose, I guess, for this event, it's to kind of rekindle the love, remind you why we love the game. And everyone now, especially after like the Frontier panel, when you hear what's coming up, and when you start talking to people, and you find out how to get all these, these gems and diamonds and things like that, you're thinking, oh, as soon as I get home, I'm going to fire the game up. So I think that's what the...
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay. It's okay to have a love affair with something that you only... ships that pass in the night in the kitchen, or to leave it in a box and let it be dusty for a while and then brush it off and rediscover it again. I think that's okay. And
to have an affair with another game.
Yeah. Don't tell Elite Dangerous about Phoenix Point, right?
No.
Okay. Is there anything else, gentlemen, that you want to quickly raise? Is there anything we've missed?
No, just we will be having a Galnet report, and we never remember to say that before we ended the show. We just end the show and then go, oh, Galnet! We're going to have a live Galnet report right after our show, yeah?
Yeah, thank you to Pete for that. And actually, I know that we talked about that last year a little bit in our my workshop on Where Have the Thargoids Gone, and one of the highlights of the community for me, and I've said this on a couple of the streams, is the fact that that's exactly what I was talking about. Pete doing the Galnet report is exactly what I was talking about. He's found a niche, and they're fantastic, so well done to Pete.
And he owns this as well. I mean, you're awesome at that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's really cool. Okay, all right then. So that's it for another episode of Lave Radio. If you would like to get in touch with the show, then you can email us at info@laveradio.com. You can get us at Facebook Lave Radio, at Lave Radio on Twitter, or you can join the Discord chat channel by going to tinyurl/lavechat, or you can join our TeamSpeak server where commanders come and my iPad turns off. There we go, where commanders come to hang out and chat, teamspeak.laveradio.com. Lave Radio is usually recorded live on a Tuesday evening at 8:30 p.m. and streamed out on Lave Radio/live. But today it wasn't. It was recorded instead at Lavecon with its amazing live audience. Thank you very much, people. So the next thing that's going to happen is the raffle. And after that, until next time, fly safe. And if you can't fly safe, then be a pirate, because apparently there's a career in it.
Yeah,
right?
diamonds, yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. Fly dangerous. Thank you very much.
Is your life like this? Sounds like someone having an orange inserted into them. Need a safe word. Space can be low. I'm going to see the galaxy.
guys. Hold the fort for 2 seconds. I'll be right back.
It's not. It's playing. Doesn't appear to be. No. That's working. Ooh. Okay. It'll be there in a minute. Shall we try that again? Doesn't seem like going out today. Oh, I can hear it very quietly.
Yeah, we're getting it, but it's very quiet.
Chop up the massive volume.
Well, we like round numbers. Not the app, we like round numbers.
Apparently something's going out on the Twitch at the moment.
Was it?
Yeah, that's fine. We're still voting to
20 left. No, but they can hear you on Twitch, so they can't hear here, but they can hear Twitch.
That'll do.
I don't know what microphone it's coming up.
Yeah. Okay, ready when you are.
Okay, we'll go.
Wait. When I said ready when you are, I meant in a couple of seconds when you're ready.
We're starting in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Galnet News Digest, 25th of June, 3303. We read the Lavecon news, so you don't have to. In this week's news, Galactic Federation must try harder. Pilots Federation to get tough on rogue members. Explorers do it by themselves. Pilot slavery outlawed. And keep the Star Lube coming. Galactic Federation must try harder. A report on the recent Thargoid encounter that was prepared for President Zachary Hudson has been leaked, and it reveals that the Federation military is in a sorry state. The report confirms that the Thargoids are indeed hostile, and that they fire back when attacked. It also reveals that Federation weaponry is apparently of very little use against Thargoid vessels, and that the highly maneuverable Thargoid ships can disable even the largest military battlecruisers. The Federation report makes a mysterious reference to Thargons, although the context does not make clear what they are. Alliance sources have commented unofficially, questioning whether the Thargoids are indeed hostile. There have been numerous occasions where Thargoid sunflower ships have completely ignored human craft, or briefly pulled them over to the side of the hyperspace bypass to check their pilot's license and wish them a good day and a safe journey. One Alliance source suggested that shooting at Thargoids might not be the best way to judge if they're hostile. However, the Federation now has its crayons out and is working on concepts for weapons that might be able to take on the Thargoids. Press that twice. Pilots Federation to get tough on rogue members. The Pilots Federation has revealed that it's planning to introduce bounties for commanders that shoot at other Federation members. I don't know why we didn't think of it before, a spokesman said. We're going to introduce a bounty system that applies across the homeworlds, except, of course, in those few lawless systems where the Federation has no representation. In related news, the cost of fines applied during rebuys is being adjusted to reflect the value of the ships used during a crime spree. The days of the suicide winder may soon be over. Explorers do it by themselves. After years of whiny explorers complaining about blowing up when their hull fails, an innovative company thinks it has the answer. Autofield maintenance units are useless for repairing a hull because they can't get access. According to Cantabrigian Developments Limited, the way to approach this is from the outside. They're working on a new hull repair limpet that'll be able to attach to the outside of a ship's hull and repair it while the ship is undocked. The benefits to organisations such as the Fuel Rats is immediately obvious, and wings of assault vessels may be able to repair each other after a battle, but the benefit to explorers will be the greatest, as they'll be able to repair their own ship using the drones. This should make the neutron star highways much safer. The only part of a ship that still needs a visit to dry dock is the power plant, and a solution to that problem still seems a long way off. Pilot slavery outlawed. Oh, wrong one. Let's do that one. I'm enjoying this now. Right. It's been announced that the selling into slavery of pilots rescued from wreckage and crash sites is to be made illegal. It's become accepted practice that occupied escape pods can be sold for a profit in commodity markets, the galaxy over. What happens to the poor occupant after that is often unclear, but it's believed that some of them end up working in data slate factories in China. A plan is underway to appoint search and rescue contacts in every station. This will allow commanders to turn in escape pods in the sure and certain knowledge that the occupant will be resuscitated with care by trained professionals and will be rehabilitated and reunited with their families at the earliest opportunity. However, shooting occupied escape pods is still good sport and will remain totally legal. Keep the Starlube coming. Following the appeal by Dr. Cordelius Swain for rare goods for his celebrity soiree in the Lave system, attendees have been voicing their delight. Well, I was looking forward to the azure milk, said one delegate, but I really wasn't expecting quite so much onion head. The ambassador really knows how to party. Other rare goods imported for the event included a rather nice fluffy Momus Bog Spaniels, MEDB Starlube, which is always handy if you're getting on particularly well with your dinner companion, and Thrutis Cream, which comes in handy a few days after you got on particularly well with your dinner companion. The most interesting rare good, however, was Honesty Pills from King Gateway. There's nothing that makes a party go with a swing better than a good old bit of honest, straight talking. And by the way, Ferrero Rocher are particularly horrible chocolates. And that's this week's Lavecon Galnet News. Galnet News, we read the news so you don't have to.